Hello and welcome to another episode of Fractional Impact. Today we're speaking to Alicia Herzog, who's a fractional retail, media and e-commerce leader for brands looking to scale via Amazon. We'll be going into why Amazon strategies fail, sometimes after 5 million in revenue, how to fix catalog sprawl, margin compression and wasted ad spend, plus other topics that are going to be really valuable for e-com brands. Alicia, would you like to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. I'm Alicia Herzog. I'm coming to you live from Seattle. So first, a big thank you to Stuart and Gianna for having me on the show. I'm really excited. I'm the co-founder of Digital Pedigree, where we provide fractional Amazon support to brands of all sizes and stages. And prior to that, I spent 17 years in a variety of roles at Amazon.
Awesome. And we're joined today by Gianna Maliari, who's one of the solution specialists here at Fractional Clients. If you'd like to introduce yourself, Gianna.
Thanks, Stuart. Hey, everyone. I'm Gianna, one of the solution specialists here at fractionalclients.com. I work closely with the team to help spot growth opportunities and build outreach strategies. I worked across various sales and ops functions at companies such as Uber and Revolut. And today I'm filling in for Finn, the usual co-host, and I'm really excited to dive into this with you today, Alicia.
Awesome. So my first question, Alicia, so that the listeners can get a better sense of who you are and what you've done. Just walk me through your experience and what you've been doing over the last few years.
Yeah. So I joined Amazon fresh from undergrad. It was really just my first job in 2007. And I left with what I've come to refer to as a PhD in Amazon. If there was one word to sum it up, it would be builder. I really had three distinct careers in my time at Amazon. First, I was a retail buyer, which is the flagship business. I built categories and brands from scratch in home, tools, and fashion categories. And I really mastered the fundamental Amazon building blocks, which are selection, pricing, and availability. Next, I was an advertising pioneer, actually. I was one of the early hires in Amazon ads, and I launched the fashion vertical, which is a multi-billion-dollar business now. And this was really before retail media or ROAS were part of our vocabulary. I helped essentially brands buy traffic efficiently. And finally, I was a business development leader. I built and led global programs designed to scale Amazon's partnerships. One was a sales development program that trained early in career talent, kind of like me in 2007 from day one. And then another was called Adapt. And that was effectively Amazon's internal fractional executive program. Fractional is kind of a newer term. But really what we did was we matched Amazon veterans to key strategic initiatives across Amazon advertising. And, in my time in this role, I temporarily led some teams, or I launched new strategic verticals, or fixed broken systems. And that program really mirrors exactly what I do now in fractional work. So I left Amazon a little over a year ago, and I co-founded Digital Pedigree with my husband, Jason, who's also an ex-Amazonian. I actually met him on my first day at Amazon. And at Digital Pedigree, we really believe that anyone can gain digital pedigree. It's not something you're born with. I literally knew nothing when I came to Amazon. It's really something that you build through structured testing, iteration, and hands-on keyboard experience. And we help brands achieve their own digital pedigree based on systems that literally built Amazon itself.
Interesting. I know that when founder-led brands that are selling on Amazon get past the 5 million in revenue mark, they sometimes maybe go a little bit wrong. What are the common mistakes that you sometimes see at that phase of growth?
Yeah, it's a great question. First, I want to define founder-led because it's such a common profile on Amazon, and it plays a huge role in why brands hit this wall. I would also say 5 million isn't it's not just when you hit 5 million, it can be at any time really, but like brands will hit a wall on Amazon. Founder-led really means that the person or the people who started the business are still running the show, okay? They wear a lot of hats, from product development to logistics to marketing, and customer support. And they've really built a business that drives revenue, but in that rush to grow, they haven't had the time or the Amazon acumen really to optimize their business for long-term success, on and off Amazon. And so the most common mistakes I see from founder-led brands, or maybe another way to think about it is like solo Amazonpreneurs, okay, is it's all tying back to these missing systems. And here are 3 mistakes I commonly see. So the first is chasing competitors instead of building a strategy. At Digital Pedigree, we have this philosophy that you should start where you are. And that means rooting every action in your data and your own Amazon journey and not getting distracted with why, brand X is outranking you, as an example. The second one is no scalable processes. So early growth often comes from hustle, okay? But to scale, you really need to bring process to what can be a really chaotic environment. And that's probably one of the first lessons I learned at Amazon, bringing process to chaos, because Amazon's really chaotic internally. And that's where our Digital Pedigree flywheel comes in. It's a 4-part framework that I'd love to share with you guys, because it's born out of like both mine and Jason's best Amazon practices. So the first part is inputs. And really, this is like asking, does your catalog have structure, content, is the pricing that you have making you retail ready to convert traffic? The second part is data and mechanisms. Do you have the right reporting processes and business reviews in place and tied to your goals? Do you even have goals? There's a lot of brands we work with that don't. And so those 2 parts are like really the foundational things that drive businesses. And we often come across really seasoned brands, like even 10, 20 million, I'm telling you, who are stalled because they just built this business really fast, but with like a shaky foundation. And then like once you have that foundation, you're ready to move on to the third part, which is customers. Okay. Customers are really the fuel that drives your growth. But like if your acquisition or retention strategy isn't efficient, like you're going to be spinning your wheels. And we also see a ton of brands who have just like started throwing money at trying to acquire customers, and then they're sending those customers to, bad inputs essentially, and it's not converting and they're just wasting money. And then the fourth part is testing and iteration. At Amazon, when you launch something, it's really just V1, you call it, okay? And then, you iterate, you're continually improving. And so having that discipline to learn fast, to grow smart, and to continually improve is a really part of success. It's what sets the brands apart from those who aren't doing this kind of a framework or something similar. The last mistake I commonly see is trying to do it all. Founders really wait too long to get help. And I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the name Sarah Blakely. She founded the company Spanx, okay, shapewear, okay? And years ago, I listened to an interview and she said something that I think really captures this risk well. She said, as soon as you can afford to, hire your weaknesses, because what you're not good at is usually also what you don't like. And that's where fractional support, I think, can be such a game changer for these founder-led brands, for any brand really. And we often, at Digital Pedigree, will step in for just 2 to 5 hours a week, but that can unlock massive growth for our clients.
What kind of time or stage do you think is best to bring in someone to really lead Amazon sales? Do you think it's best sub 1 million or 2 million or 5 million, or is it different for every company?
I do think it's really different for every company, and I think that sales is essentially an output in the Amazon engine. And so it's easy to get distracted by like hitting some number. Okay. And it's really, like I said, about the systems that you have in place, and are those systems running, is the engine running smoothly? Okay. And if it's not, then, and you sort of have gone through all of your own tricks in your assessment and you're stuck, you're at that wall, like it seems like it's time to get outside help.
Right. Interesting.
Aside from sales, what does a healthy founder-led brand on Amazon look like?
Yeah, I think there's this fundamental Amazon concept, which is that you need to focus on the inputs, and it comes directly from Amazon's founder, Jeff Bezos. So I think he does say it best. If you Google Jeff Bezos and inputs, and he'll explain it to you. But the truth is, like I said, Amazon's a sales engine and sales revenue is an output. And so we start with this really simple equation of traffic times conversion times ASP, average sales price, equals sales. Everything like on the left side of that equal sign, those are the inputs, okay? And it's not just a formula, it's a diagnostic tool. And so this is a really good way, one, like you should know what your equation is. You should know what your inputs are and how you're getting to your sales, your current sales numbers. You should know your history. How is your current performance versus, last month, last year, whatever that is. And if your growth is stalling, then it's really about looking at the inputs. From a traffic perspective, and this is usually like one of the most common problems, are you driving enough of it? Okay. Is it from the right resources? From a conversion standpoint, these are really tied to those inputs. Like, are your pages optimized? Do you have bad reviews that have impacted the conversion? Are you even in stock? That's often sometimes the problem. And from an ASP's perspective, like this is really tied to margin in the competitive marketplace. 3P sellers have more control over setting their pricing. 1P sellers kind of are beholden to Amazon to set the prices. But, as the marketplace becomes noisier in whatever space you're in, that pricing can become constrained. And that can really lead to a decline in your sales. So thinking about your assortment, and if margin is a problem, making sure that you are driving healthy traffic to items that have a higher ASP that will help you grow. So the first step is always to start where you are. And it really doesn't matter where you are in your journey. You just have to know where it is and then work from there, not where you wish you were.
Yeah. When you mentioned 1P sellers versus 3P or 3P, what exactly are the difference between, if I'm not mistaken, you're talking about first party or third party, but
Yes.
What exactly is the difference there?
Thanks for that question. You're right. So 1P or first party sellers literally means that Amazon is going to be the seller on record, and they're going to place purchase orders. They have a direct relationship with the brand, and they bring the inventory in and then kind of manage everything from there. A 3P seller is someone who's going to be the seller on record. So it's their business. It'll say, ships and sold by brand X or whatever it is. And there are different platforms. There's Vendor Central is for 1P and Seller Central is for 3P. And those are the platforms that a brand would use to run their business. And then there are some brands that are hybrids. So they have a 1P relationship and 3P relationship, but Amazon is like moving away from that and kind of drawing some really firm lines in terms of revenue for where they want to have 1P direct relationships. If brands don't like hit those thresholds, then their Amazon is pushing their that brand to 3P.
Right. I would assume with 3P you retain more margin, but it might be logistically more challenging. That would be my guess. Is that about right?
I mean, there are two ways that you could be a 3P seller, and it all ties back to shipping. So like the traditional way is that a brand would be the seller on record and also manage how to get the product from sale to the customer's house. So shipping directly to the customer. And then there's fulfillment by Amazon FBA, where the brand would ship their inventory into an Amazon warehouse and let Amazon manage, all the shipping logistics. The second one is the one that I think is better for one's business. The problem is there's a lot of unit costs that a brand would need to, or a founder-led brand would need to be just like adept at, because there's fees associated to that, and that can really eat into the margins. But, I've worked with thousands of brands, both in the 1P and 3P spaces, and brands of all sizes. And my recommendation, especially for founder-led brands, is usually 3P. And the reason why is that you just have better control over your pricing, your content, and your inventory. And also Seller Central, I'm sorry to say, it's got better reporting, okay? And so that helps you just be more effective at managing your business. And then, to your point, you just have more flexibility in your margin because you have that full control. So I would just say, if you are a new seller, which Amazon defines both by time on the platform and revenue, Digital Pedigree actually has a partnership with Amazon's Strategic Account Services Program. It's another Amazon acronym, which is SaaS, unfortunately. And that can get you 12 months of dedicated internal Amazon support to help you grow. It's really just like a fast track through some of this stuff that can bog these founders down, or any business down. So you get dedicated internal Amazon support to help you grow your business. And this is something that Digital Pedigree can help brands get. You can just drop some time on our calendar at digitalpedigree.com/schedule. And we can work on just assessing that form. It's a form that we have access to. It's not a public form, but we can look at it together, and we're happy to submit if it makes sense. And that's even if we don't work with you directly, because it's not very often that Amazon gives brands something for free. And so we really like helping people take advantage of this.
Those are some really great tips. I was wondering, are there any particular things that brands are doing? They think that they're doing them right, but actually aren't correct or aren't as beneficial as they might think.
It really ties back to that sales formula I shared earlier. Do you remember it, Gianna?
Traffic times conversion times ASP equals sales.
That's exactly right. Yeah, that's the most, it seems simple, but the brands we work with are looking at their sales formula performance on a regular cadence. And it's really that start where you are philosophy and our Digital Pedigree framework that help it really shine. I really believe that in this equation, traffic is the most controllable input. So if you're either building your business, you're focused on these foundational concepts of inputs and data and mechanisms, or you're in a growth mode and you're focused on customers and testing and iteration, you can't really effectively grow your business if you don't have a solid foundation. And we also actually have a tool. So if you don't know your sales formula performance, we have a tool that you can use, the sales formula worksheet. And again, you could schedule some time with us, and we're happy to calculate it with you together, because we really just feel like Amazon and e-commerce is just down to some simple math. It's not magic.
When a company is selling on Amazon and they're plateaued, I know that if I ask you what to look at if you're in that position, you would say inputs. But what within those inputs, if I'm correct, would you be looking at specifically for potential problems?
Yeah. So I'll give you an example of a brand that's actually 1P, and they're established brand that we have a fractional contract with today. They're an established brand. They're really big in their industry and their Amazon business. While they've been on Amazon for, I think, over 10 years, has stalled. Okay. And so we've been working with them since January. And we used both the sales formula and our framework to assess their business in the Start Where You Are assessment. And what we really uncovered was that even though they're an established brand and they've been on Amazon for over a decade, their inputs, meaning like their catalog construction, the content on their detail pages, even imagery, okay? It wasn't up to the standard that it needed to be. And so we've spent the last, I would say, 6 months, really like I would say the first quarter, just rebuilding that and being consistent and, taking like items, for instance, and putting them in what Amazon calls a variation. So you get to a detail page and it'll have small, medium, and large as an example. So just like cleaning up their catalog, okay? And it sounds super basic. And, in this example, they've, like I said, been running their business for 10 years on Amazon, but I'm trying to think because I don't have the number in front of me, but quarter over quarter, I think it's 140% growth from Q1 to Q2, just from these like very simple and, to be very honest, like one-time things, okay? Inputs really, if you have the right ones in place, you just do it and then you kind of set it and forget it and move on. And if you have the right data and mechanisms in place, then you can audit what is not working and then improve that as well. And so it's getting really fun with this client because we did all of that hard work that isn't too sexy, let's be honest, like coming through a spreadsheet and like making the bullets better. But it's important work. And now we're on to really fun things. Like we just had Prime Day last week and we had some really good traffic driving strategies to leverage what is essentially an Amazon invented holiday. It sparks a lot of traffic. And so we were able to acquire new customers for this client using that holiday. And they had some of their biggest days of all time. And we know that their conversion increased because of those inputs, because those inputs are where they need to be and they're ready, retail ready is what we call it, for that traffic.
Wow. Yeah, 100 was it 140?
140, yeah. Yeah.
That's crazy. Do you think that kind of quarter over quarter growth is possible for a lot of companies selling on Amazon that is maybe underutilizing a lot of their inputs, or is that more of like a one-off?
No, it is. I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. So I think I almost would liken it. I make analogies sometimes just because it helps me understand it. I would liken it to like you have a medical issue and you don't really know what's wrong, and you go into a doctor or a specialist and you kind of describe the situation to them, and like in seconds they're able to diagnose it and give you, the solution or a prescription to solve that problem. Like I've been doing this for a really long time, and it's maybe that concept of what's simple to me is magical to other people. Like people are staring at this for a really long time and they can't figure it out. And I can look at it and, in a matter of just some data and reports, I can quickly see what the issue is. That story I just told you about our current client, like there are so many that I have in my time at Amazon, and it's not specific to any one category or brand type. Like this is agnostic. I've worked in every single product category that Amazon sells, products in. And like I mentioned in my time at Adapt, where I just was rotating around the business and taking on these essentially fractional assignments, I would do this over and over and over again with brands. So it really just, like Jeff Bezos said, comes down to having the right inputs, or to think of Amazon as the engine, like good in equals good out. So if you don't have good things going in, then what would you expect to have? That's not magical. It's just math.
Yeah. For these companies that are maybe starting to get some success and they're scaling, but maybe they're starting to struggle with margin compression, which I know a lot of companies face as they grow. How do you try and support with that?
Yeah, that's a great question. It's really about inspecting the quality of your revenue. So a few levers that we would look at are first the catalog optimization. And this is an acronym, and it might sound inappropriate, but I want to let you know this is an Amazon acronym, okay? And it's getting rid of the crap. And CRAP stands for can't realize a profit. This is an Amazon term that they use, okay? So sometimes products just simply can't be profitable on Amazon. And Amazon periodically, with their 1P brands, will audit the catalog, and they will turn off. They will stop ordering things that they deem crap, which are not profitable for a variety of reasons. And I just think that is, as direct as that can be. Like, there's a lot of truth to it. And I think that there are just some items that won't work on Amazon, and you have to be honest about that. And if you have, the right data and mechanisms in place, then any brand, not just 1B, can identify this and make that decision to turn off crap items, because it doesn't make sense to sell products where you lose money, period. Okay. The second one is maybe assortment strategy. And we recently had a client that makes beauty products, and they had a 6-ounce consumable product that was like a liter on Amazon, but it was crap. Okay. And it was also a top D2C product on their own site. But it's, some of those FBA fees were really making it unprofitable for them on Amazon. So we helped them launch a 10-ounce version. It's the same formula. We variated it so that 10-ounce version sits right next to the 6-ounce version. And then the way that we've set the pricing, they're 3P sellers, so they can, have more control over the pricing. We've really demonstrated the value of the 10-ounce through pricing. So it's, good, a better version, if you will. And this is pretty new, I would say maybe in the last 4 months, but we've seen some really great traction on that 10-ounce version. And that's really shifted not only the demand, but helped to increase their revenue, because the 10-ounce version is more expensive, but customers can see the value. So just, some assortment strategy, being sort of retail aware of your fees. And, if you can create new products like that, just shipping and packaging too, are you putting too many things around your package? Can you reduce that? Is another way to help with your margin. And then the last way is just unique bundling. So looking at reports like frequently bought together, there's some really cool Amazon Marketing Cloud AMC, another acronym, reports that will show folks, what items are bringing the most new to brand customers, or what items are cross-selling. And just looking at that data and seeing opportunities. We have an outdoor brand that we work with, and they were selling kind of a main item and an accessory separately. And we noticed a lot of that being purchased together. So that's just a bundle that you can create that customers want anyways. And that will help because that accessory was actually not profitable as well. So putting it together and giving that value, or even a starter pack, the beauty brand, we've done a lot of their top sellers into more of a starter or value pack. So looking for those opportunities can just help offset those margin issues.
What usually comes under the category of crap?
It really comes down to, if you think about Amazon supply chain, and in my retail days, I had an opportunity. Everyone had an opportunity to go to the fulfillment centers and actually work in the warehouse, especially at peak. That was a program that the corporate employees would do. So I really understand. Essentially, Amazon uses the word touches, all the touches it takes to get something in the warehouse, sorted and stowed. Okay. And then when a customer orders it, going to get that item and then sending it out to the customer. Think of all the times that someone touches it as costing money. And that can, if an item's $4.99, that can be more expensive to get it to the customer than the item is worth. So that's one example of crap. And another one is just, it's so light or so heavy that shipping, it doesn't make sense. Those are some of the key things that go into why an item is deemed crap. And then I would say also, and you see this a lot in the 1P environment, because Amazon really focuses on competitive pricing. So Amazon might be selling a product, but then Amazon's competitor, Walmart, might be selling the same exact product at a lower price, and Amazon will follow them. And 1P brands can get very frustrated because they don't make those decisions. Amazon does, and that can really impact their margin. And that's another great example why you have more control over pricing as a 3P seller.
Got it.
On the flip side of crap, what do you think are the signs that a company could do really well on Amazon and should actually put more resource into it?
Yeah, I think there's like it all ties back to that sales formula. So, let's say a brand had a goal of $5 million and they've hit that goal. Okay? They're not going to just pack up, like they're going to raise the goal. Okay. And so I think, earlier in the conversation, I said there's a lot of brands we work with that don't even have goals. Okay. And I saw this at Amazon internally, like with brands that were really big and established. I would be so surprised that they didn't have any goals. And so I think it's really important to understand what your goals are. And then let's use sales as that's usually what the goal, really the main goal is sales. So let's say that last year a brand achieved their sales goal and now they're ready to raise their sales goal, but they're not really sure how to do that. Okay. It really ties back to that sales formula. Because like I said, it's not magic, it's just math. So here's how you would use math to figure out what your plan is for that next revenue goal. That you would define your goal. Like I said, that's step one. Okay. So like, let's say you have a target sales goal of, for the sake of being, I'm not very good at quick math. Okay. $1 million in Amazon sales. Okay. Now you're going to need to calculate the traffic that you need based on your performance to get to that goal. And so you just use your current like sales formula performance numbers to calculate that traffic and do a little algebra. Okay. And it's okay if it's been a while since you did algebra. So what you would do is you would just reverse engineer and you think of that equation and it really just becomes, the traffic needed equals the sales goal divided by what your conversion rate is in ASP. So using the $1 million as an example, let's say that you had a conversion rate of 8% and an ASP of $25. Okay. The equation would be, 1 million divided by 8% times 25. And that would be 500, page visitors essentially. Okay. So once you know the traffic that you need to hit your next goal, then you have to develop a plan for that traffic mix. And there's no world in which brands going to buy 100% of the traffic that they need. Advertising essentially is paid traffic. Like there's no world in what you do where you would do that. That wouldn't be a healthy business. So you really need to analyze your traffic and understand, what of your current performance is organic and what is paid. And so let's say that in that example, you have 60-40, 60% of your traffic is organic and 40% has been paid historically. That's a great starting point. 40% of 500,000 is 200,000. So now you have a plan, right? Okay, I need 500,000 page views to hit my sales goal. And I know that I'm going to buy 200,000 page views through advertising, different advertising levers. Once you have that number, then you can effectively, build an ad budget and an ad strategy to generate that traffic at whatever KPI you're using to manage your ads business, cost per click, return on ad spend. Tacos is another one. So that's total advertising cost of sales. It's a really popular one. And yeah, like I said, the sales formula, it's all about the sales formula. This kind of problem, getting to this stage, is one of my favorite problems to help brands solve because one, it implies that you have solid inputs and data and mechanisms in place. Like finding customers, i.e. traffic, is the fun part. And that's what fuels growth. And that's what's going to drive your business year after year. So, now you have a new goal, you hit that goal. Now we have to diversify our traffic strategy. But that's really fun. And I see a lot of brands get stuck at this stage of execution. And so we help a lot of brands, our fractional clients, with this concept and with setting up a strategy to do this, continually.
Yeah. You've given a lot of great sort of frameworks and questions to ask for companies wanting to scale on Amazon. But how do these things differ for a company that's at the 100K mark or the 1 million or the 10 million mark? Are there different sort of questions that they should be asking or things they should be focusing on, etc.?
I think for the most part, the frameworks that I've shared apply. They're really timeless and they apply and scale with any business. I will say some of the smaller sort of brands or smaller businesses on Amazon typically have a smaller catalog because you have to start somewhere. And, you know, as a brand grow, like a jean manufacturer that I worked with, you know, the SKUs alone, the SKU count is where it can get really complicated. And so like having these systems in place just help harness the growth at any stage so that you can make sure that you just have not only the right inputs when you add new selection, because that is another way to grow is by adding new assortment. There are a lot of brands that we work with that may have, you know, 1,000 SKUs and 20 of them, sometimes as far as drive 80% of their revenue. And they just haven't optimized the other part or really have an understanding as to why that those 10 or 20 SKUs are driving 80% of their revenue. The launch products, having a new product launch strategy is also really important, you know, kind of as brands continue in their time on Amazon. I have kind of this philosophy because Amazon has billions of items. So is it really an item if no one's looking at it? It ties back to traffic. And there are a lot of brands that will, you know, create this new amazing product they think, but then they don't launch it to Amazon with a traffic strategy. So it just sits there, no one's looking at it, it doesn't sell. And now it just becomes, you know, that large portion of their catalog that isn't selling. And that seems just to me like a waste of time, really. So having some of those things in the later stages are really important, but it all ties back to having a solid foundation, no matter your size.
Leading on from that, for a brand that's just starting up, what are some areas of the business that you think they should focus on to ensure success?
The catalog, okay? Like, period. Because the whole point of, you know, customers going to Amazon is to search and buy things. And so you have to have solid detail page content. You know, Amazon has about 7 slots for images. Video has become important. It's more and more important. Even like simple stuff like a laundry hamper I recently bought on Amazon, okay? There was the product that I ended up buying had a great video attached to it and kind of showed me how easy it was to set up this laundry hamper, which seems not like it's important or necessary, but you know, that really sold me, okay? So just like those fundamental inputs, but at a product level for Amazon products, in case you don't know, is they're called ASINs, not SKUs, okay? Amazon Stock Identifier Number, okay? And ASINs is how all products are sold and bought, and a catalog can have, you know, 5 ASINs, it could have 5 million ASINs. It really just depends on the size of the business. And so making sure that all of your ASINs are set up properly is the most important, because that's what is going to influence the buying decision.
Going into something a bit different here, I appreciate this is going to be different every time, obviously, but when you and Jason, as part of Digital Pedigree, go into a new company that's doing, say, 1 to 5 million in revenue, wanting to scale on Amazon, how long does it typically take that company to get a really good return from what they've invested into working with you guys?
Yeah, that's a really good question. We start every relationship with the start where you are assessment. This is important because we need to understand the business. And it's also helpful to brands who've been like staring at the same thing, okay, to have a fresh set of eyes. So, you know, typically we'll work with clients anywhere from 3 to 6 months. And that first month is really understanding the business, pulling reports, putting it into the frameworks that we discussed, understanding what the sales formula performance is. But we need that time to assess. And then, every brand is different, but I had mentioned, throughout our conversation, there's typically like 3 problems, okay, that we see, no matter what the product industry is that we're working with for that brand. So traffic is one of the most common problems, but just like the catalog construction, like we were talking about, having a lot of items and having a very small percentage of those items actually drive revenue. That's another problem that we see. And then it's really incumbent on the brand or us, if they've hired us to do it, to fix that. And so that's like a function of time. And then the third thing that we see is margin related. And there are, like we've discussed, are ways to assess the crap and kind of move away from that or kind of organize the catalog so that you can deliver those same products to customers that they like at a more profitable price.
Got it. And based on sort of everything that you've said, what are maybe the 3 takeaways, the 3 biggest takeaways that a company doing 1 to 10 million in revenue could use to maybe double the revenue they're doing over the next 12 months or so?
I think the number one thing is just recognizing that it's not like there's no magical sort of like formula or $1 million solution. It's really just a very simple math equation. And understanding how you're performing in that equation, and then understanding if your performance is not where you want it to be, how to fix it. And then I would say really the second takeaway is just bringing that process to the chaos, because I totally get it. Like when you're in build mode, often done is better than perfect. And I think that having that freedom to recognize that whatever version you have out there was just where you started. And like really growth on Amazon itself follows this principle. Like it's really about coming to V2, V12, whatever it is. And that's what's going to drive the continual improvement. And that's the last thing, is that you don't reach your goals and just stop. Like you have to continually innovate. And Amazon has done that. If you look back at Amazon's history, that's why Amazon is where it is today, because it has continually improved and invented and done things, like, quite honestly, guys, that I never thought were possible or that other people laughed at them for. Free shipping, I think, was probably the most common because it's ubiquitous to like how we shop today. But when Amazon started offering free shipping, people thought that was insane. Customer reviews, another one. They thought, this is insane. How could you do that? And now it's just part of our everyday lives. We've come to expect that. So I think brands really need to carve out time to kind of think through how they're going to innovate and bring something new to customers, because we see it when we're shopping, right? Like you have an item that you're looking for, and then there's just 1,000 that look like the same of that item. So it's trying to differentiate that from all the other noise in innovative ways.
Yeah, it makes sense. Gianna, any closing comments or questions that you want to get out to Alicia?
Honestly, I think everything was wrapped up really nicely there. Obviously, bring it back to the formula: traffic times conversion times ASP equals sales.
Nice.
All about the inputs, right? Is there any, last notes that you'd want to give anyone just looking for general advice?
I would just say there's this misconception, especially related to fractional work, that it's going to be too expensive and so you can't access it. And I think that is something I'd like to demystify. Like I said earlier, like some of our contracts are really just 2 to 5 hours a week. But that's the right fit for that brand where they are. They don't need full-time help. They just need expert help to help them not only move more quickly, but like intentionally in the right direction. And that's super valuable, but also it's not like dramatically expensive. Like, it's accessible. And so I think it's just worth a conversation if you're kind of on the fence, because the worst that you can discover is, it's too expensive for you right now where you are in your journey. Maybe you have the information and, you'll unlock it later.
For companies that that took interest in this and want to use that amazing resource, which is you and Jason, how are they best to get in touch with you?
Thanks. Thank you for asking that question. Yeah. So you could just go to digitalpedigree.com/schedule, and that will drop time directly on our calendar. And that, I think, is just the easiest way to get connected. You could email me also at eherzog@digitalpedigree.com. But, I like to move fast. So if you're ready to just have the conversation and start exploring this to see if it's a fit for you, just drop some time on our calendar, and we're happy to run through that sales formula with you, or even, like I said, submit you to the SAS program, the Strategic Account Services program, to help you grow your business. Because that's honestly one of my favorite things that I did at Amazon, was helping people grow. And that's why I do it full time with Digital Pedigree.
Fantastic. Well, thanks a lot for taking the time today, Alicia. It was great to have you on. A lot of fantastic knowledge for the viewers and listeners. So thanks again. And to the viewers and listeners, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Take care.